Hey all, your OS reviews. A couple months back we checked out the myFirst Insta 2. This is a camera primarily aimed at kids, and what makes it special is it is a thermal instant printing camera. So the moment that you take a photo, you can print it out onto the receipt paper. At the time, there was no app support, so the thermal printer can only basically print whatever photos you take from the camera, and as the name kind of implies, this is a model that now has wireless printing capabilities. There is a companion app. You can also use it as a wireless thermal printer for printing out labels as well as stickers and photos from your phone. In addition to still being a camera, of course, that you can snap away photos and print out that way as well. And it still retains a pretty similar resolution in terms of the camera itself, which is 12 megapixels. You can capture videos and photos, but obviously you can only print out the photos that you take, and has pretty much an identical design as on the original with a 2.4-inch display, along with also a front-facing camera for selfies. You can insert a micro SD card, and it has a 1,500 milliamp hour capacity battery. It's going to be much cheaper than on a Polaroid style full color or Z-Ink print, inclusive of just a quick user guide, plus the aforementioned rolls of thermal paper. Some of these are regular, so they will just print out the full-sized image. Others are more of this label style, which are adhesive. And it seems like the stickers also come in a few different sizes. So the smallest will have 4 rows versus the largest, which has 2. Last but not least, you'll find access to the aforementioned lanyard strap, which is very similar to the previous one. We also have a charging and data cable, which is unfortunately still using micro USB. So same remarks as on that model. I really do think they should upgrade to USB Type-C, but it is what it is. There's also a free included micro SD card reader. A closer look at the design, from afar you really can't tell the difference between this and the Insta 2, which is not surprising because, again, there's really nothing that's different from the printing technology, and the camera lenses are identical. It's just the addition of a wireless chip. So the previous cyan blue is a bit more vibrant. This one here is a little bit more muted, but you can also choose the yellow edition as well. Otherwise, we still have the soft touch rubber build, which is super grippy and comfortable to hold, but because this thing is going to be a little bit larger than your standard camera, the shutter key isn't located on the top, it's actually located on the front, which makes it a little easier to hit for creating a photo. That's the selfie lens. You can choose between different mode keys, as well as navigation on the side. Built-in speaker and mic for recording sound, and also these little ears, which acts as the lanyard strap, the micro SD card slot, along with a micro USB slot. Now by default there is a micro SD card which is included that is at 16 gigabytes, and then when you are ready in terms of popping in the thermal paper, it's quite simple. Just give it a bit of a push at the sides, pops open, that's the printer. The dock here is made out of the same polycarbonate soft touch rubber material, and we also have the keys in the back there for power and print even when the camera is docked, because it covers up the screen and the controls there. But it's pretty clever because it's just allowing that button to still be pressed through even when you are putting it onto here, but it works pretty well, so I can still access these controls. Closer look at the camera's performance first. Now this part is pretty much copy and paste from the Insta 2, in which we really can't expect the best quality, primarily because it's a fixed focus lens, but if you are a little bit further away for things like landscape shots, at least around a feet or so off from the lens, things are generally okay. But at least it is pretty easy to use. You can switch back and forth between the front and the rear cameras, which are pretty much the same in terms of quality. You can tap on the plus and minus keys there to switch between some of these stickers or filters basically that you can apply onto the camera. So for instance, you can tap into this carousel view and this adds a few different special effects. The display at 2.4 inches, it's decent again for what it is. At least it is an IPS panel, so viewing angles are decent, but it's not really the largest, nor is it a laminated screen, so it can produce a little bit of glare under the sun, but for the most part remains usable. The controls at least are all pretty big and easy to press, so not too many complaints there. In brightly lit environments outdoors, it can still look alright. But here's an example of a shot which is closer to the camera lens. You can see how text details can be a little bit more challenging to make out. Like I said, if you're outdoors, things are generally good enough to get you by. Let's say I like a particular shot and I want to now print it out. I can simply press on the print button there. Usually takes about 10 seconds to print out a full image. Quality of the images, well, I would say they're really just so-so. In fact, they're not of the highest quality per se. At least most things are legible, but again, it's black and white, and if your shot isn't very contrasty, it can struggle a little bit more. And that's really why I think having the app support, hopefully being able to tweak some of these settings, will make it a lot more versatile. Here's one more shot, and this one is turning out to be a lot better because the printer now is warming up a little bit and it has a better contrast from the photo itself. You're not going to win necessarily any photography awards on this thing, but for the most part can still be fun to play around with. And here is another two examples, I think, where it has a little bit better of the quality because of the contrast in the photo. Settings that you can play around with include changing the resolution of the photo, so you can lower it, so by default it's 16 megapixels. You can change that if you desire. Printing density, which I would recommend leaving on high for the best result, even if it takes an extra second or two for it to print out. So other things on here including resolution, language, it's pretty much all the things that you get. Time and date stamp, you can also control, as well as the wireless connection. Basically, we're connecting it using Wi-Fi, hence the name Insta Wi. We can tap on the camera there and now launch into the app itself, and we should be connected. We are now able to access a pretty simple interface, but from here we can see our print history, as well as start to print a photo from our phone, as well as use some of the presets to create other templates, sticky notes that you may want to print out. So these memos, which you can then use to scribble out notes for, that makes it a lot more versatile. Afterwards, just hit on print, and the image here will start to pop along, as you can see there. So again, very similar to other thermal printers that we've seen in the past. And in this mode, I have to say, I think working a little bit better because, again, these templates naturally have a better contrast, so it might be a little more legible. Then under template, you can also find things like different labels that you may want to use for school equipment, as well as photos, scrapbooks, even for food items, which is, I think, a good idea. So you can denote when the perishables were purchased and then tap on print now. In similar fashion, it will then output it onto the two strips. Now we're just using the sticker printer instead to attach onto the produce or whatever food object packaging that you may want to pop it onto. And overall, again, the legibility of the print here is quite good for things like text, at least. Strawberry icon I can make smaller. You can see how the label will dynamically adjust itself, along with other food emojis have been also added in for this particular mode. So you can categorize it based on different events that you might be interested in. So it is a pretty thoughtful and full catalog of different items that you can label. Drawing mode is similar to other template modes, but this is just for your own sticky notes. So you can think of this as a sticky note printer to further change things like the type of label you're using, whether it's 1 row or up to 4 rows. You can tweak that accordingly based on what type of paper you have inserted. Now, one feature that is missing admittedly from the settings that I've seen so far would be creating QR codes or barcodes. Last but not least, printing out photos is pretty versatile. So here you can also create different special effects to make the colors inverted, as well as check out basically how it looks like when you print it out in some of these other fun kind of photo booth effects that you can play with. But here we go. This is, of course, a better quality result, I would say, for close-ups because we're using the phone's camera now. You're basically able to print out anything from your phone. This also includes screenshots from web pages and anything from mail to other documents. It does make it much more legible usually than a simple photo because things are going to be a bit more contrasty and everything can be read. So that is more or less it as far as our hands-on review of the, again, Oaxis myFirst camera, the Insta Wi. And I really think that this is a much more versatile and useful product than the original Insta 2 because of that app compatibility. Particularly, again, if you're giving it to a child, they can find a lot of fun in just snapping things away, printing it out. But now you can also join in and print out labels and other things just to make it a bit more fully featured, something that can be shared around the house. So you can check out more details if you're interested in the links down below, but for now that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the myFirst camera Insta Wi.